All right. Good morning, everyone. This is Dragons and Diagnostics Unlock the Power of Personalized Learning, an introduction to CAST learning by me, Cheska Robinson. I have to thank you, secondary teachers, for a wonderful session yesterday. You were great. You turned on your camera, so it was really nice to see your lovely faces and to actually be speaking to people behind the screen, and also with your participation and feedback and the post session survey. Unfortunately, during yesterday's session, I was unable to record it, so I'm going back and recording this so that you have it for reference. Okay, so I'm Cheska Robinson. I am the NARIC training specialist. I am a veteran science teacher. I've taught mostly everything except Regents chemistry and physics. And now I am a K to 12 tech coach, and I work with teachers in about 12 buildings in the capital region, BOCES. My partner, Marilu, she was with us via chat yesterday. Unfortunately, she couldn't show her face on screen because she was feeling under the weather. So we are going to send her some positive healing vibes, and hopefully she will be feeling much, much better soon. Okay, so our objectives for this session, I'm going to walk you through Castle Learning and help you create a class and add your students in. I'm also going to create an assignment and show you how to create an assignment and align it to your subject and grade level standards. And then finally, I'm going to show you how to get to the student center and what it looks like from the student's perspective or side. And this was our agenda. And some of you, thank you again for your feedback. I do realize that an hour is very, very short, especially when it comes to something extensive as this session. But we are going to be focusing in this video primarily on number two, three, and four. And then, like I said, you'll have access to this Canva presentation. So you'll have your own time to go look through the extras, and you'll also have our email addresses and contact information. So if you have any other questions or any follow ups, we are available, readily available to support you. So, Castle Learning, what exactly is it? It's a great online platform. It's a large database inventory that really focuses on assessments, and you can use it for formative and summative. And I've used it myself as a science teacher, and it's really worked and been really helpful in enhancing those learning outcomes, especially with test prep and all of the standardized tests that are now becoming computer based. So my favorite features for teachers regarding Castle Learning is the fact that it actually gives you your time back, right? I know that as teachers, time is money, and we really need more time for ourselves. So the nice thing about Castle Learning is that you can create assessments and formative or summative quizzes that to help you can use a question bank or you could use pre-made ones, so you could actually get some of that time back. And of course, what is an assessment without data, right? So the nice thing about that is that you'll get some real-time feedback and some data reports, so you can turn around right away the next day and customize your instruction or further differentiate it or create some of those targeted intervention groups. For students, it provides great opportunities for them for self-paced learning, and that's really important, I think, to give them that autonomy and that confidence in their skills, and also gives them a lot of opportunities to review and practice. So this isn't just a one-time thing. Actually, if you start using Castle Learning at the beginning of the year and create it as part of your classroom routine, you can help build students' test resilience and also their stamina. One of the things that we've seen with these computer based tests, they are long. I mean, in our regular classroom settings, we are not giving them tests that are what, 2 to 3 to 4 hours long. But when they when it comes down to it, when they're taking these standardized tests, just computer-based tests, the average time is 120 minutes. That's a lot, especially for our younger kids, our grade 5 or grade 8, and even for our high school students who are taking the regents. So, building in the routines, giving them time to practice, and also simulating that test environment, Castle Learning is a really great tool to help you with that. So, again, thank you for your feedback in both the pre session and post session surveys. And a lot of you really wanted to know how can we use Castle Learning to really prepare our students for these standardized tests, these computer based tests. So, there's three ways. One would be to, again, start at the beginning of the year, make it part of your routine, right? So, you can create these assessments or practice tests with Castle Learning. You can include different question types. There are four TEIs or technology enhanced items on those CBTs, and you can incorporate that so your students have familiarity with them. You can also use the previously released samplers and past exams so they can see what kind of questions, what kind of rigor these previous exams have so those students build up their familiarity with that. Same thing, you can simulate the online testing environment with the tools. So when you assign assignments or when students use the student center, they will have access to the toolbar that gives them access to the equation editor and online tools such as the protractor, the graphing calculator, or the ruler. So it's nice so that they have access to that, especially for our younger students who's never taken a computer-based test before. They can practice with that and be comfortable once they're in that actual setting. And then also you can use the browser lockdown feature. So one of the teachers said, hey, is there such a feature where we can turn it on? Because I realized that some of our students were, opening other tabs to answer the questions. So yes, there is a feature, and I'll talk more about that when we get to that slide or that feature in the live demo. But part of utilizing the lockdown feature is you can simulate that testing environment. So I know that it's unlikely for you to simulate a 120-minute exam in the classroom, but maybe for one of your unit tests, you can use Castle Learning and you can use the browser lockdown to simulate a testing environment where it's quiet, or you could also provide that time for focused practice. So these are the three ways that we can use Castle Learning to help your students build test resilience and familiarity with the computer-based features, test features. You know, and that's really important because we don't want them to be sitting down in front of the Chromebooks towards standardized tests a week time and not know what to do. So it really gives them that opportunity to feel comfortable. And this time they're not just fiddling around with the toolbars and trying to figure out what to do then. That way they could just focus on the content. So now we're going to do the live demo, and I'm just going to toggle out of the screen here and open a new tab window. And I'm just going to type in Castle Learning. Okay, so you can sign in with your email address, or you can also use the Google single sign-on. Okay, and here is our classic version of the teacher dashboard. There is a new version coming up, and this should be available to you in September. So I'm just going to click on that real quick so you can see what it looks like. So this is what the new version looks like. You have the bigger buttons, a little more streamlined and sleek looking. Okay. Unfortunately, some of these tools are not yet available in the new version, so I'm going to revert back to the classic version so you can see how to do those three things via the classic version. But like I said, this should all be up and running by the time you start the new school year. Okay, so one of the three things that we are going to focus on is to create a class and add students in. So we are going to focus mostly here on the left sidebar panel, and let's go ahead and click on the My Classes link. And here you'll have a list of all the different classes you'll have available. So you do have to create your own classes, but you don't need to worry about uploading your student rosters. So I would just suggest making sure that you have a consistent naming convention, both for your classes and for the assignments. It just makes it a lot easier to stay organized from the very get go. So for me personally, it would be for the grade, then the subject, and then whatever period I have it. And this doesn't necessarily have to be just your subject and grade level. It could also be for electives. It could also be for small tutoring groups and or an AIS class if you're in the secondary setting. So you can see that I created a AIS bio or living environment class, and let's go ahead and create one for uh, grade grade 9, an AIS Earth Science class. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and press or click on create new class. And then here's that class, grade 9 AIS Earth Science. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on that link to add my students in. So, like I said, you do not need to do anything regarding your student rosters. Castle Learning is going to do all of that for you. You are just going to need to add your students into your classes. So to add your students into your class, you're going to click on the blue button next to the category filter. And my results are going to look very different from yours. I'm using a demo account, but once Castle Learning uploads all of your schools rosters, you should see the different grades. So I did say I was working on a grade 9 AIS class, so I could choose to select this, or I could select this option here. So I think I'll do grade 9, and I'll just go ahead and add those students. So when I choose grade 9, these are the two students that showed up. Oops, I didn't check all of them. So remember to check all of them and then add check students to your class. So now we're done with task one. We created a class and we added our students to that particular class. So what it brought me into is a tab with my students for this particular class. You can see their last name, their first name, their ID. These are all made up, and then you'll see their email addresses here. So it would be at, whatever their names is at Scotia Glenville. All right, so underneath here, there are a few things you can do as well. You can choose to send particular students a message, whether or not it's about their assignments that you've assigned to them, and etc. You can also move students to a different class. So maybe I accidentally added Jacob in and he's not supposed to be in this AIS class. I could check his name and move him to a different class I have already set up. I can also choose to select a student and hide that student. So maybe Joshua um, transferred to a different class or a different school, but I don't want to lose his data yet. So I'm just going to hide that student from the roster. If you have a co-teacher or if you have a teacher like me who's doing the AIS Earth Science class, then I could add their main Earth Science teacher here. So I could click on that and either type in their name or their email address. I don't have any teachers in my demo account, so I can't really demo that for you, but that's the main idea. You just write their name in, it will show up. You can click add, and then they'll be right here in this co-teachers box, and we click update. And again, oops, you can also add new students. So maybe you have a new student that transferred in during the middle of the year. You could go back here and add a student to this class, find them from the roster, and then select their name and add them. So that is task one. Let's go back to the home page here and talk about task two, which is to create an assignment. So back in my sidebar panel here, I am going to click on my assignments. And it's really just a matter of going down the page here. So I'm going to select Earth Science as the course. And then depending on what type of assessment you're creating, you can also put them in any type of folder. So you can put any folder if you're running out of time or prep time, you can create a default folder or you can just create folders as you go. I do like to make it organized at the very beginning because as you'll find out as you use this throughout the year, you'll have a lot of assignments. So it gets hard to keep track. So you can create Castle Learning assessments for daily do nows, bell ringers, exit tickets. You can use it for study guides, for your end of chapter tests, you could use it for AIS review, like what I'm demoing here. Or like I said, if you have a small tutoring group or an elective, you could also create that. So really the sky is the limit for you. So I'm going to do a drop down and select AIS review for my grade 9 earth science. Now, these three tabs, um, we're mostly going to stay in the assignments. So anything that you create in CAS Learning, you'll be here. Anything that will be in assessments, that is basically something that the Scotia Glenville district creates for you. So if there is a particular pretest, maybe you have accelerated students that are going into biology from grade 8 to grade 9, then maybe your district will create a pretest for those accelerated students and see if they qualify to go to that class. So that would be a district made or district produced assessment. But like I said, you'll mostly stay in this assignment tab for yours. Flashcards is any flashcards that you create. I'll show you a little bit about that later on. So there are three options for you to create an assignment. You can create a new assignment, and by new, we're meaning piecemealing. There's my accent. Piecemealing, putting together different questions. I would say from a question bank. So you're not typing this up all yourself. You're just putting together different questions from different tests um, into a new assignment. You can also create a assignment from a public assignment. So these are pre-made, pre-test, post-test, especially for the Regents classes. And you can also access those samplers and previous Regents exams. And finally, if you have your own assignments in your Google Drive, you can also import them and continue to use them in Castle Learning as well. So I'm mostly going to show you these two options. So first, let's do a AIS review sample 2 and then click on new assignment. And if you decide to change your mind about renaming it, you can always go back and rename it later. So I like that about Castle Learning. It's very customizable. Nothing's really set in stone. You can always go back and modify and edit it. So now we are in this page where you have a bunch of different buttons. And my go-to is really to start with keyword search. All right. And it looks like a lot, but it's just Castle Learning trying to give you a lot of support. So we can go down to questions to start, and I'm going to science, and I'm going to select earth science here. So I'm just going to make sure I have earth science. Okay. Then you can see I now have 3 selected. So it's actually going to grab questions from 3 different um, science subjects. So let me just make sure that I uncheck the other 2. There you go. So now it's only just pushing in or grabbing questions from earth science. And if you want to grab some sample math, so if this is a intercurricular assignment, you could also move that in. I'm just going to uncheck that. So it's really just going to look for questions for earth science. Okay. All right. So Let's see. For earth science, you put in a keyword or search phrase. So I'm trying to remember for AIS science. I don't know. Let's do weather. So I'm just gonna type in that and then click the green search button. And so here you'll see that you have 501 questions as your results. So you have 501 questions and 21 total pages. So these are the various questions that has been pulled out regarding weather. Now, I don't have time to go through 501, so I'm going to go over my left side here and use the filter to narrow down my choices. So, content area, I'm just going to keep it with earth science. Now, maybe to make it faster for me, I'm going to focus on multiple choice. So, remember that multiple choice questions and fill in questions are auto graded for you. So maybe I'll put in some fill in too. But if you choose to use the constructed response question, you will have to manually grade those yourself. And then Castle Learning will be able to auto grade the multiple choice and the fill in. So unfortunately, we don't have that AI suggested grading thing yet, but hopefully in the future they can get that. So I can do multiple and fill ins for it to be automatically graded. And then I could also choose my levels. So these are students in an AIS group, so they're struggling learners. So maybe I'd like to focus on some basic level questions to build up their confidence and to scaffold it for them. And then later on in my follow-up AIS assessment, I'll mix in some intermediate and then scaffold again on a third attempt with some advanced questions. So I'm loving the customization here, tons of opportunities for teachers to build in that differentiation and also provide true personalized learning for your students. So levels, question source are going to be strictly Castle questions. If you have Spanish speaking students in your class, you can also add Spanish questions in. Public exams and assignments. So these are things that are already pre-made. I'm not going to do that because I'm going to show you another way later on. These are your personal assignments, so something that I previously imported before. And if you know the standards, unfortunately I do not, but you can go ahead and copy and paste standards in as well if that's better for you. And then I could also go through the topics and then just look at, oh, maybe I want to talk a little bit more about climates, climatic effects when I'm talking about weather and environmental change, maybe. So it's really customizable. And then we're going to go ahead and apply it. And then we went from 501 questions to 7, right? And that's okay because this is just going to be like a quick 3 or 4 question for me to double check. So now I can look through here. And like I said, if you want more questions, you can go back and uncheck some of those topics, and then that will probably give you some more options. But let's say that I only need 3 questions, so I'm going to look through these 7 and I'm going to look through them. You can click on a box to see the whole box or question yourself. Here's the question, and here's the options, and then here's the correct answer. You can also check on the properties. And so, what I like about the properties is that it will also give you the associated standard, and it will also give you the Bloom's taxonomy levels and DOK depth of knowledge levels as well. So this is saying that this is a DOK 4. All right, so that's pretty high, but not too bad, right? Because it's still high school basic for our AIS students. Now, I also like that it provides me with the vocabulary, so I can go on later and print out a separate PDF that has that vocabulary so they can use that. So, whether or not you do index cards, old school index cards, or you can do, Quizlet or some type of gamified edtech tool. Um, Either way, you have the vocabulary and you don't need to go back there and type it up yourself. It is given to you and you could just print it out and provide it to your students. So I'm just going to go ahead and randomly add the first 3. That's not so random, but anything you select is grayed out. And then I'm going to say, okay, these are all the questions I want. And when I scroll up, you're going to see this floating toolbar or this floating area here, and it tells you how many questions that you have in your assignment. Then you can press done. It's now takes me out of the question bank, and now I'm in what they call the editor, assignment editor. So we're now halfway through task two, then that's creating an assignment. So here you can further customize this. So you can look at the questions. It's available in Spanish as well. Here's the answer, and I love that if you put this in preview or open mode, it will give your student a hint if they happen to get the question wrong the first time, and gives them a second chance to retry. And then it will also give them an answer explanation, which to me was a godsend because I had students that would always ask, well, why did I get that? I don't understand. Can you explain? And that's hard to do when you've got 30 students in a classroom times how many for high school, right? Like 6, 7 periods. So you don't always have the time to sit down and explain it one on one. So Castle Learning takes that and does it for you. They have the hint and they have the answer explanation. So they'll say, oh, that's why. Okay, I get it. Now let's try it again. So over here, you can select the next question, and you can even modify it if you think that um, the questioning or the wording is a little bit off. So you can always fix that. And then one of my favorite things is that you can level it up with your differentiation by attaching some resources. So you can attach a resource by clicking on that link, and you can do add a new resource. And so if you have an existing resource set, so maybe for my living environment, I was working on something with natural selection. Uh, let's do create a new resource set so you can see this, how it looks like. And I'll do something for AIS, Earth Science. I will say okay. So you can upload a PDF, maybe of a study guide. You can also upload URL, so you can do a video from YouTube, or maybe if you have a digital textbook, you can link that as well. Or if you have your own files, you can upload that as well. So I'm just gonna head on over to YouTube, and maybe you need something like a earth science. Oh, you know what? Let's do the ESRT weather review. Okay, so Matt Fan 869, I like his videos. He does a really good job. I'm going over how to use the different ESRTs, and I'm just going to pretend that this is the one that I need, right? So I'm going to grab that share link, copy it. I'm going to jump over back to Castle Learning, press the URL button, and ESRT relative humidity video, and then paste in that URL, click add. And so now that video link is there. And you can always rename it later. I want to make this public, yes. All right, and then let us go back. Oh, did I not save it? Oh. Okay, so I'll try again. Create a new resource set, AIS Earth Science. Okay. Instructions show. All right, done. Okay, so now I've made a new set, so you can keep adding things, and you can always go back and delete them once it's done. So now I'm going to click on the plus sign next to the AIS Earth Science Resource Set. I'm going to say yes, this is the name that's going to show. So now when they're taking this practice assignment, they will also have access to that video link to help them review the ESRT and help them use it for the questions, right? So that's how we could do that. So you can do that not just with videos, but with other files that you have available for them. So now you can also go back down here to the left side. You can add your co-teachers if you haven't done that in the beginning. You can continue to modify your assignment. So maybe you wanted to rename it something more specific, right? So maybe now it's AS review humidity, right? You can also change the multiple choice style, so you want them to be more familiar what it looks like for your regions. So you can have the option to select that. You can create an assignment note, and this is just your directions. Make sure to have your ESRTs on hand for this assignment. Save. So that will show up when they take it, and so that will prompt them to take the ESRTs out. And you can also reclassify this. So maybe I accidentally made an AIS bio, not an earth science. You can add more questions, remove questions. You can move questions around. And then finally, I'm not going to bother with properties, but display and print. You can show Spanish if it's available. You can also print an answer key. Maybe you have an AIS teacher who is not earth science, and they need an answer key, so you can print that out and send it off to them. And here's the vocabulary that I was talking about before. You can click on vocabulary, create a Quizlet vocabulary set after your Castle learning assignment. Okay, so up to you. I could put in my name in there. You can show the name line, and then you could do print to PDF. Okay, so now here's all the associated vocabulary from all the three questions. So now the students know that first they got when they come into my AIS class, they can come in, do the bell ringer, do the practice review, and then they will get a copy. You can print a PDF, or they can also get this through their student center. And then their next assignment after they do their castle learning assignment is to build their vocabulary set so they can review. So a really, really nice feature that they built in. So let's pretend everything's all set. Now we can assign it to students. Okay, so you can send it to all of the students, or I usually just go here to assign to students. Okay, so I can check all, both Jacob and Joshua will be attending my A-day AIS or science period, or maybe Jacob is only my A-day or Joshua is my B-day. So you can select that. I'm just gonna pretend and have them both. So now the assignment settings. I know that was a lot, and I still even haven't showed you public settings. So thank you for hanging in with me here. I'm really taking the time during this video to slow down a bit and then show you in detail, which I wasn't really able to do during the session yesterday. So here, the modes open is when you want them to have that retry. So open will allow them to give them the question. If they get it wrong the first time, they'll get the hint, and then they'll get to take it a second time. If you do quiz, it will give them the question, and if it won't tell them if they got it right or wrong, it'll just move them to the next question. And then offline. I always choose from to two, and that's just me because I find that students tend to be more on top of things if you have set routines and set schedules. So for my AS classes, I would just start it on a Monday, and then I'd have it due on a end of the week. So they know it doesn't matter if they're A or B day, it's already set up Monday. They've got the whole week to work on it, work on their assignments, work on their vocabulary, and then it's all due by the end of class Friday. So that's just really good because once I set it, I can forget it. I don't need to worry about these guys unless you want to time it and create that sense of urgency. I'll probably check it if it was a quiz mode. All right, so we do want to give them retake since this is open mode. You could also provide that for a quiz. It's really just your preference. But I'm going to do a retake, and I'm going to set the mastery level to 80. So they have to score 80 or above. And if they don't, excuse me, If they don't, then it'll give them automatically a retake. So this is again an open mode, and I do want to give them half credit for the retake. I just want to give them one retake, and I do not want it available always. I do want it available for the same amount of time that I set up the original um, assignment. Excuse me. Just getting a little dry here, so I'm just going to take a quick sip. So, and then you can also set your auto grade. So this is really nice. So I don't have to do all of that, even with the photo app scan or one of those scanners. So on the retake, I only want them to answer the questions they got wrong the first time. I don't want them to worry about redoing the whole thing, and I don't have any constructed response questions, so I don't need to worry about that. But if you do, you just got to remember that you do need to grade those. All right, so now this part down here is really about the differentiation and the accessibility features. So if they have a constructed response question, you can give them a rich text editor, or if they have some math problems, you can give them the associated math equation editors. This is probably going to be either rich text or advanced for my AIS class, or maybe just even the 7 and 8, depending on what kind. I do like to turn on my randomized question order all the time, just because they like to sit next to each other, they like to look at each other's screen. So this prevents them from looking and, cheating or working together. I do allow them to sit next to each other, but randomizing, it just gives you that extra level of security there. Let's see. If you have any math problems, you can assign them a calculator. It's either for function or scientific. They can have a protractor or ruler, so you can turn it on and off. And someone did ask about the browser lockdown feature, and here's what I was mentioning before. So when you use Castle Learning in September, you can enable browser lockdown. So if they're in my room and I know that I want them to, if it's a pretest or if it's actually a summative test, I will turn this on. And this will prevent them from going to a different tab and looking up answers. So it'll just keep them. So that's really nice. And that's also great if when you're doing a mock exam. So if you're simulating a standardized test or computer based testing environment, that's a great feature to have. And this is also my favorite one, that enable the photomath app blocker. So what that does is, especially if you have any math questions, math teachers, this will prevent the student from taking a picture of the screen with their cell phones. So you know how sometimes they have those apps that help them do their math problems? Well, photomath app blocker is going to throw up a colored grid in front of the question, so it actually prevents the cell phones from taking a picture, sharing with their classmates, oh, this was on the test, or also, helping them. So I really love that feature. It's just another protective layer, another layer there. So now, we finally got through all of those options. We're going to go ahead and assign. And there it goes. So here it is. And now I am in the results page, and it will show me uh, how they did when they go and take it. And he's also the different icons of the features, accessibility tools that I've turned on for them. Whew. All right, so that was a long, long thing. I know we're halfway there. Let's go back to my assignments and let me show you the fun part now and talk about how to create a new assignment from the public assignment. So I am going to just do maybe an AIS pretest, right? And I'm not going to worry about that. And I'm just going to go ahead and click on create from public assignments. All right. So maybe we're at the beginning of the year and we want to give them a pretest and see how they do. So we are going to just head on down to science. We're doing AIS Earth Science. So I'm going to click on Earth Science. Then I'm going to click on Castle Assignments. And then we are in New York, so I'm going to click New York. And here is the lovely part. You have all of these pre-made pre-tests, practice tests, and post-tests for various units in earth science. So if I were working with the earth science or collaborating with the earth science teacher, maybe the earth science teacher would do the pre-test and then you go through their unit, and then in AIS, as the AIS teacher, I would give them the practice, right? So I was doing something in weather, right? So let's see. Ooh. And then you can see that they also you have access to all the previous regions earth science exams from 2002 all the way to, I believe, the most current one is January 2024. So okay, weathering. Weather. All right, I'm just gonna pretend that weathering. Sure, ready to go. All right, so teacher gave them the pre-test. Now they're in my IS class. They're maybe in the middle of the unit. I'm gonna give them the practice test, and then maybe I'm gonna go through some of these earth science ones and have them practice. So I'm pretending that I know, and then I'm gonna scroll down and click on import. So these students now have these as practice exams and then the pretest. All right, so that was just really nice, quick and easy peasy. So that is how we create an assignment, whether we piece, I can never get that word right, piecemeal, there you go, questions together from the question bank, or get it from a public assignment. Now let's show you how to send that to your Google Classroom. So I was going to do the weathering erosion practice. And here I'm going to just click on this icon here. It's a link or infinity icon. And it's just going to go through all the same settings again. So I'm going to do open, blah, 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 do the same thing. And I'm just going to pretend I clicked on all of this. And then I'm going to create link. And then I don't know why I didn't realize this back then. And I was always looking for a link to copy, but you actually have to click on this icon, this loose leaf icon, and then you'll get a prompt that says you copied the link. Okay. And then you can press OK or click here to open up your Google Classroom. So I'll just click on that to show you. Oh no, it turned my Castle Learning thing differently. So I'll just make a new tab and go to my classroom. And I'll just use the CRB example here. You can go straight to your announcements or your classwork tab. Let's create an assignment. AIS weathering pretest. And I'm going to attach it as a link. All right, and then you can go back, add your instructions, and customize all of your due dates and grading and what have you, and then go ahead and assign. So now if I go back to that, it's now here, and my AIS students can go in and click on it, and they're ready to go. Perfect. So now that's 2 out of the 3. Let's go back to home and do the last task, which is to show you what the student center looks like. So you can see what it looks like. And then I would suggest just spending some time during the beginning of the year to model this with your students, especially if they have not used Castle Learning before. Okay, oops. Let's just go back to Student Center. So this is what students' dashboard will look like when they sign on. So they can sign in through Google single sign-on like I did, or I believe you have Clever, so they can use Clever and just get straight through Castle Learning. So whenever they have assignments from you and other teachers, it will show up here. So they will get something like new assignments, and then if they haven't completed any of them yet, or some of them, it will show up here. Any messages from teachers will show up here. Okay, and then they've got tips of the day. So I really like that. Something cool for them to read. Okay. But really, the best thing about this part is the self study. And this is something I would take some time during class or AIS to show them how they can use self study to create those independent study habits. So if I'm an AIS student, I would go here and I would go all the way down and practice for the Regents exam. So this is great. We're in that second half of the year and we're, really building in practice with Regents um, tests. So if they want to practice, if they know maybe their part of their homework is to practice 10 to 15 minutes a night on the earth science exams, right? So they can go here, go to science, and they have access to all of these classes. They can go to New York State Earth Science and then they can just go through some of these old exams. So maybe they'll take the latest ones and they could practice them themselves. Or you could set it up and say, okay, I need you to create a self study assignment and I need you to practice the January 24. Okay. But this time, they don't have to sit and do it on paper and it gives them that feedback. So this is number two, what we mentioned before, the three ways that we could prep for the CBTs. This is exactly what it will look like for them when they're on that Chromebook, when they open up Questar. So they have the toolbar at the bottom. Anything that you provide them access to, the calculator, ruler, and protractor will show up. They've got their reference sheets or reference tables. And then they also have these accessibility features. So if they want to write themselves a quick note, they can open that up and it's like a little post it note, maybe just a quick reminder. If they're stuck with a question, they don't have to, to waste precious time on it. They can bookmark it and just go on to the next question and then come back to this at another time. They can also use the eliminator. So this helps our students, especially the students who have this in their IEPs. It will eliminate two out of the four, so 50% of the options. They can also use the highlighter to highlight keywords. So which location? So keywords would be high tide, the moon. All right. And then they could move that around. They could erase it or use different colors based on how you practice annotation skills with them. And they could also do line readers so that they could move it along so they're not being distracted by different parts of the screen. So let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of the highlighter real quick. All right. Okay, so other accessibility features, I love that they have the listen function. So if you have a student that has in their IEP test read out loud, you could give them a pair of headsets, or you could give them this, or actually for any of your students, this works for everyone. You can have them listen to it. Okay, and then I'm just gonna. Oh, there is your eliminator there. I'm gonna take that off. Um, so they're thinking, so it's nice. So they could eliminate it and say, okay, I don't think it's one, I don't think it's three. So then it's either a choice between two or four. Okay, let's select two. Okay, so this is the retry option since it's in study mode or self study. So since they got it wrong, it will tell them to review. And so here's the hint. They can press listen again and they can have it read out loud to them. And it also gives them the related vocabulary. So maybe they're not quite sure what it meant for tide or moon or sun. So they could go through some of this vocabulary and then, try again. All right. So it will keep track of that down over here. So this is how many questions they have right, how many they retried or retook, how many they got wrong, and then how many constructed responses they've got. So aside from the read out loud option, you also had a translation feature. So if you have a ENL or ESL or ELL student, you can have them select it, and that's if they are proficient in reading their native language here. So maybe you have a Korean speaking student and they also can read and write it. So now it translates the whole page to their language. I don't think it will do that though when you do voice or read out loud. Oh, okay. So I was proven wrong. Yes, it will read it out loud in their chosen language as well. So that's awesome. Let's see if I could. Spanish is always something. So Spanish, perfect. So that's great. So I love that option for them as well. So we can always go back to original. And if they change yours, or if they change yours, um, yours is always going to be in English, no matter how many times they change theirs into a different language. So I'm trying to bring it back to English. Right here, English, English, English. Where do you go? Because this is going to be hard if I can't get back. All right, but it's in Spanish. But you can always do that, or you could just get out of it. Right, so English. So these are some of the accessibility features, and this is what it looks like in Self Center in the Student Center. If they X out of it, that's a lot. So anything that they bookmarked, it will show up. They can go back to it. Shows them that they attempted this twice. This will also let them know that this is a constructed response. And then, usually during the proctoring, we tell them, oh, okay, before you submit, let me see your review page. If it's all complete, awesome, go ahead. So they can continue working or they could exit and save, and it will automatically grade what they have done. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any completed ones to show you, but if they had completed assignments from your class or another teacher's class, it will give them a report and it will give them areas of improvement and it will also give a breakdown of topics. So, let's say they're in math and it says that they need to work on linear functions, then they can go back to the self study. All right, so I showed you rocket mode, expert mode's another option. So they can go to math, right? So they don't necessarily have to just stick in one class. This could be their study buddy. They could go to math. They can pick a topic. What was it like? I said algebra, right? Algebra one, linear functions. Okay, so depending on what their results or reports said that they need an area of improvement in, I'm just gonna say maybe they need improvement in graphing. All right, and graphing here. They can select how many questions they want to practice. Maybe we'll build up to 20. We'll start with 10. And then they can say something like practice linear. Okay, there goes my accent. Linear function. Oh my goodness. Practice linear functions. Or maybe I should be practicing my typing skills. Press OK. And now they've just generated themselves practice uh, so, in their own time. So maybe during study hall they could do this, or during flex time, or even during tutoring, right? You can see in your reports, hey, I need you to get online and I need you to create a self study on blah, blah, blah. So, great way to use Castle Learning. Also, provide that personalized learning option, the opportunity for students. And you didn't have to do anything, your students did. So, really nice. Whew. All right. I know that was so much, but I thank you. Thank you for being awesome people and w- being patient, watching everything here that I've given you. I'm trying to get back to oops, my account here. Oops. And my colleagues keep texting me here. So actually just going to go back to Castle Learning because I do want to point out a few more things that would be helpful for you. Okay. So anytime you're using Castle Learning, um, The team, Marilu and her team, are wonderful. They are very quick in their responses. So if you have any questions, feel free to give them a call if you're more of the auditory. You can send them a email here through this email address. You can also put in an IT ticket. So if you are using the browser lockdown now, remember that you need to have IT to install that extension for you and your students. So before you use that in September, please just make sure you give them that guide. Everything will be given to you via email in a few minutes here. And just make sure that IT spends some time installing those extensions. And then you can use the browser lockdown for the new year. You also have the help link here. So if you have any other issues that cannot be answered by the email or the help resources, you could let them know about it. If you have an idea that you think would be awesome and they don't have it yet, feel free to give them a suggestion. They're always open to suggestions, and this is why it's so helpful. I'm loving these accessibility features, the many opportunities for differentiation because all came from you guys. And also, finally, down here, so help resources. So, lots and lots of written documents, a lot of video tutorials to get you started. And finally, I am going to just share with you they do have upcoming webinars coming up this summer, so feel free to register for them. So you would probably be registering for this one since you're all new to Castle Learning. It's a make and take, and Mary Lou or one of her other teammates are going to do an excellent job walking you through the same stuff I've done, and she's probably going to give you better tips and tricks, and you will have time to just sit down, create your classes together, do your first month or first 2 months assignments if you get that far. But here's all the available times uh, in August that the webinar will be offered. So please check them out. They are excellent. I've learned from the best. Marilu here. So yeah, so that is all of Castle Learning, at least in this presentation, the three things we talked about, which is the create a class, create an assignment, and then the student center. I'll share you this presentation so you can read through the rest. Some other ideas on how to use Castle Learning beyond test prep. Also, some quick tips, to make things a little better for you. I'm all about automation. Here's accessibility features that I've showcased to you. And then again, some of the resources and in the webinar. So please make sure to click on this one here. This will give you that intro guide. Lots and lots of information. Actually, let me open it up for you. Lots of guides that you can print out. And it actually even breaks down more information for you for regents, for CBTs, and by the different types of topics that you do. All right. Okay. So here's my contact information. Here's Marilou's contact information. She is your partner success manager here in Albany. So if you have any questions, feel free to email either one of us and we will get to you as soon as possible. I will be sharing a Google Form survey with you in the email as well. So I would appreciate it if you'd please take a few minutes to just go over it and give us some more feedback. How was this video? How was the session yesterday? We'd love to continue to work with you in the fall and help you build up that Castle Learning success with you and your students. All right. Okay. Well, thank you so much and have a wonderful, wonderful day.